Hey you guys, so I have like 6 minutes until a department meeting that I have to be on for Zoom. So that means that I'm going to make this like 6 minute lecture, which should be okay because I think that that is all we need. So I'm going to kind of pick up where we left off. We talked about Stalin, who was a totalitarian dictator um, kind of under the guise of communism, but now we're going to talk about the rest of Europe, and we're specifically going to focus on, um, uh, well, I'm going to mention Italy, but we're going to focus on Germany. So I want to rewind a little bit to the end of World War One. You guys, this is what Europe looked like. It was in complete shambles, in disarray after the war had ended. So much of it was just leveled. There were so many lives that were lost, and they called it the lost generation. Nations were struggling. In Germany specifically, you guys, they had always had an absolute ruler. We talked about last semester, um, Kaiser Wilhelm, and the many kings that came before, that ruled over, or princes that ruled over different areas in Germany. You had the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and now all of those empires have collapsed, and instead you have to put in a new government, and it is never easy to put in a new government. Um, it's never easy to institute a new government, but it's especially not easy in this situation. Um, it's especially not easy when the countries are bankrupt from fighting a long, drawn out war that was labeled the war to end all wars. It's especially not easy when you're going from an absolute monarchy to um, hopefully what the world was hoping, a democracy. Those are two completely different types of governments, and so it's not like it was an easy, smooth, mild transition. This is like a stark big difference. And it's especially not easy when you have all of these nations that are incredibly resentful. The Treaty of Versailles, which we didn't really get a chance to talk about in our last unit because of everything that happened. The Treaty of Versailles was the peace treaty that officially ended World War One, and it was absolutely devastating for Germany. This is really important for the worksheet that you guys are going to be working on. But Germany was blamed for the entire war, and they were forced to pay war reparations. They were forced to pay $33 billion. So actually, I'm going to get into that right now. So we're going to look specifically at the German post war government, which was the Weimar Republic. So the Kaiser Wilhelm is overthrown, and the Weimar Republic is supposed to be this new democratic government of Germany. This is their first attempt, but remember, Germany is bankrupt. Remember, Germany is resentful because the Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to take full blame for the war, and they also had to pay reparations in the sum of $33 billion. So reparations is like, you owe us for this war that you started, which, by the way, Germany didn't start World War One, yet they had to take full blame for it. And the $33 billion was to help all these other countries that were impacted by the war to rebuild. So this brand new government was struggling. They didn't really know what they were doing with democracy. And now all of a sudden they're having to figure out this new government and figure out this economic situation. What they did was they printed a bunch of money. They say, hey, we owe a bunch of money. Hey, we have to restore the economy. Let's print money because that's what governments can do. So they started printing money, but the problem is, you guys, is that led to not just inflation, it led to hyperinflation. The government is supposed to control how much money enters circulation at a time. But unfortunately, the Weimar Republic, the unexperienced government, just printed more and more money. This is an kind of like image to show you guys kind of just how bad it got. November 1918, a loaf of bread you could buy for 1 mark, which was sort of like, I don't know, let's just make it the equivalent of $1. Um, By November 1922, a loaf of bread was 163 marks. By September 1923, it was 1,500,000 marks. And by 1923, just 2 months later, it was an exorbitant amount of money. You guys can see 200 billion marks. For a loaf of bread. It doesn't mean that you had to be a billionaire to get a loaf of bread. It just meant so much money was in circulation that the money was worth nothing. People used to push shopping carts of money to the store to get something. I'm going to show you guys here. This is all money in Germany post World War I. These kids are literally playing bricks with stacks of money. It looks like, wow, they must be so rich, but really that money is just worthless. It's pretty much like it's become like monopoly money. It looks nice, but it is worth absolutely nothing. These boys here made a kite out of money. People made dresses. People wallpapered their house with money. They started even just printing. This is a 10 billion mark. So instead of like $100 bill, you get like a $10 billion bill. So it was insane. The value of money just completely disappeared, which is incredibly dangerous and not a good situation. And it didn't help that the United States, so right as Germany was trying to like make it out of this situation, the United States suffers the stock market crash and the Great Depression hits because of actions taken by the United States, and the whole world kind of responds. We'll get into that more next year, but it doesn't help the financial crisis. And so what happens is you have all these people that are really fed up with the situation in Germany. The government doesn't seem like they know what they're doing. They're hit with economic struggle after economic struggle. And so people are dissatisfied. And they say, you know what? Things are not okay in our country. So they look for somebody to blame. What they are offered is this new form of government called fascism, which was actually started. This is Benito Mussolini of Italy. It was actually started by him. Fascism is a militant political movement. So when I say militant, I mean they advocate the use of violence. It's a very like strong arm. We will fight for what we deserve. We will fight for what we want. We'll fight to punish the people that have put us in this situation. It's a militant political movement that emphasized complete loyalty to the state. You as an individual were only accepted by the state if you fell in line with what the state wanted. You as an individual were only accepted if you were the right image that the state wanted, if you did and were who the state wanted you to be. But the most important thing, you guys, and this is where you can start to see it fall into totalitarianism, they promise to punish the people responsible for hard times. So you're creating this enemy, this person to blame, or this group to blame, or this thing to blame. Hitler starts with the Treaty of Versailles because this treaty screwed Germany after World War I. And so he says, that's sort of what he starts with to get his power. And then Mussolini, he kind of in a similar way blames the sort of like other governments, how Italy was sort of left out and not really accounted for when it came to reparations being paid. So people were angry. You had these strong leaders that were promising security, promising to restore your national pride, promising to end the embarrassment that your country was going through. And so a lot of people said, hey, you know what? Maybe that's a good leader. Maybe that person. They seem strong. Our government seems weak. Maybe we should trust that person. And so, you guys, that is how we get to the rise of Hitler, which is who we're going to be talking about next week. So, the worksheet that you guys are filling out is pretty straightforward. Just go to the link and complete it. You're looking at 2 images of Germany after World War I, and it's based on what we talked about in this lecture and the kind of struggles that they were facing. Remember, reparations, that's the $33 billion that Germany had to pay. That'll help you. Okay, that's all. Have a good day.